Today we're practicing connected speech and pronunciation. We'll be breaking down some of the main connected speech patterns the English language has, and you will have the chance to practice with us by repeating along and improve your pronunciation as well. Plus, you will get to watch some short clips from movies and series that illustrate these patterns. Amazing, right? But before we get started, make sure you hit that subscribe button and bell down below, because every week we put out a new lesson like this to help you understand your favorite movies and TV series without getting lost, without missing the jokes, and without subtitles. So, hit the subscribe button in order not to miss a single new lesson.
So as promised, for the remainder of the podcast, we are going to be helping you to master some of the most common connected speech patterns in the English language. So first off, we're talking about the reduction of the H sound. Maybe you're wanting to get someone's attention. You might say, come here.
Come here.
But we would usually say that as, come here, come here. We completely drop that H sound there. Another example is pick them up.
Pick them up!
So we have with him, her, them, we tend to drop the beginning, so it becomes im, So if I say pick them up, I'd say pick them up, pick them up. That TH completely disappeared, right? And finally, also mentioned about him, right? Could say tell him.
Tell him.
To tell him becomes tell him or tell her.
Amazing. Let me try that just to practice, and then you guys out there who are watching us can also practice together, watching or listening. Come here. Pick him up. Tell him. Very nice. Another common pattern here we have is the omission of the T in NT words. When you have this NT combination, especially in American English, that T tends to go away. Here are some examples. Internet becomes internet. International, international. Sentimental, sentimental. Went out, went out. In front of her, in front of her. Ksenia, could you repeat those and, to give the chance for our followers to also practice?
Let's try. Let's try together. So the first was internet, internet, international, sentimental, went out. And the last one is in front of her, in front of her.
I thought that the sentimental, that's pretty mind-blowing, isn't it? It's got two of those, so it's sentimental. I think if I were learning English and I heard that, I wouldn't piece together what word that actually is.
So the next example, guys, is the reduction of, which often becomes v, or even the schwa sound like in the examples of kind of, kinda.
Yeah, kinda.
Could have becomes could've or coulda.
Well, it could have been worse, right?
Also, we can say should have, should've, shoulda, would've, woulda, or would have. Like in an example like, you could have told me, you could have told me, right?
We even say, if someone is talking about, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, they're regretting a decision or something like that. Oftentimes in English, we'll say, shoulda, coulda, woulda. Kind of like, that boat has sailed, it's in the past, so move on.
When I was learning English, I used to watch this show from early 2000s called Smallville about Superman when he was a teenager. And I remember vividly until today, there was this scene, I think in season 1 or 2, where the main character, he says to his father, you should have told me. But at that time, I didn't get that. And then it took me a while to piece that together. Oh, should have told me. Yeah, that was incredible to find out.
Do you want to imitate those with the audience, Thiago?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it, guys. So come on. Kinda. Coulda. Shoulda. Woulda. Isn't it frustrating when you learn a new word and when it's time to finally speak English with someone, you completely forget it? Now, I find that the best solution for this is for you to use the new words you learn as soon as possible in conversation. But what do you do if you don't have anybody else to practice speaking with? That's exactly why we created the Real Life English app. With the app, you can have a short 4 to 8 minute conversation with any learner around the globe at the touch of a button. You can also listen to the Real Life English podcast on the app with Ethan and myself. And the cool thing is that we give you an interactive transcript so you can read and follow along the episodes, and some flashcards for you to memorize words faster. And the cool thing is that the app is free to download and try. I'm gonna leave the link to the app right here in the description of this video. You can click here to download, or you can go to Google Play Store, Apple App Store, search for Real Life English and download the app from there. Give it a try. I'm sure you will love it. Now let's get back to the lesson.
So next we have, I believe we mentioned this earlier, that sometimes we have actual morphing of sounds. And this is the case when we have a T plus a Y, usually we'll change it to a ch sound. So look out for this, for example, when you have the pronoun you, because it'll usually reduce, and if it has a T before it, we'll change it to that ch sound. So for example, what you're saying becomes what you're saying.
I know what you're saying!
I don't want you to becomes I don't want you to.
I don't want you to go.
Got you becomes gotcha. That's a really great one too. Gotcha. Like you can use that instead of saying I understood. Say, oh yeah, gotcha.
Especially I would say the I don't want you to. I think I've heard in movies, I don't want you to go.
That whole like, don't you.
Mm-hmm.
Or bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you?
There you go.
I used to use that with my students a lot.
It's that connection, right? What you gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What you
There's
gonna
also that song, Don't You Wish a Girl Who Was, you know? Don't you?
Don't you wish your girlfriend was hot like me?
Ksenia, could you repeat those with the audience?
Sure, let's try. What you're saying becomes what you're saying. I don't want you to. You see, I want to say I don't want you. I don't want you to. I don't want you to. Got you. Gotcha. Gotcha.
Nice. And finally, something similar happens with D plus Y combinations. The sound here is more of a j sound with a J. So for example, would you often sounds would you. Just like could you becomes could you, and then should you. Another example of sentence here is how did you know becomes how did you know. How did. Notice that also the D there for did, the first did, is kind of a flap D as well. Just like the flap T. So how did you? How did. How did you know? How did you know?
I love the dramatization there. Something else I thought would be worth pointing out here is that you can say a full you, but oftentimes we even reduce you to ya. So in all of these cases, you could say a full you, but you could also reduce it to a ya. So you could say would you, but you could also say would ya, could ya, should ya, did ya. And even with what we were talking about before with the T plus Y, with the ch, want ya, what ya, gotcha. So all those things you can do either. Both are correct, and you'll encounter native speakers, advanced speakers saying it in both those ways.
Hey, so this is the end of this lesson. But if you enjoyed learning English vocabulary and pronunciation with it, you should know that this clip was just a part of an episode of the Real Life English podcast. And we release a new episode every week. So come check it out right now by clicking here on this video.